Hey guys, Desolator Magic here, and it's time for another overlooked but awesome card. And this one is a little bit different than the last couple. Well, and all the rest. Oh, let's just throw it up on the screen. Take a guess what's different about it. Well, maybe it's the fact that at this time, it's standard legal. Now, a lot of people overlook this card and don't realize how awesomely powerful it is, so overlooked but awesome. This is one of the most powerful spells in blue right now. I'd probably put it in the top 5. It is more underappreciated and underused than even Geralt's Masterpiece, which is one of the best blue creatures ever printed in the game's history. I have to say, I've never seen an underappreciated card like this probably since Wall of Essence. Now, I think people read cards like this and say, hey, that's crap, because, well, let's start with the madness cost first of all, because that one is reasonable. That is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. So it costs 3, but you can cast it for 4 if you're discarding it. Now, the way madness typically works, and not necessarily in blue, is that basically it costs less. Like, oh, by sheer coincidence or my own design, I happen to be discarding this card right now, so because of that condition, I get to pay less for the spell. No, you get to pay more for the spell, apparently. Do they really think somebody's going to be dumb enough to use a hand disruption card right now and choose this when you've got 4 mana open? But it's basically a pointless thing because, Blue Madness, who the hell even plays that? So let's just ignore that. I have no idea what they were thinking with this, honestly. It's an instant. That is huge. Very few tap abilities historically were actually instants. I'm sure there's plenty of examples, but it's typically a sorcery type thing, otherwise it gets way too powerful. Hey, imagine that. So it does cost 3, and I don't love that because there are cheaper tap spells, but this one is crazy powerful because you can tap up to 2 target creatures. So they don't untap during their controller's next untap step, and it's very persistent tapping this time around. Very similar to, I want to say Fate Reforged, but I think it was maybe Dragons. A lot of ice stuff. You guys remember the ice stuff with like Strive? So anyway, you look at this card and you think, oh, well, okay, it targets 2 things, it's an instant, 2 of it's colorless. Generic. God, I'm never going to stop saying that. Okay, but it doesn't do anything. It's just a dummy card for stupid people, right? Because the creatures get tapped, great, and then they come back. Okay, so it didn't solve anything. They're still there. They're still on the battlefield. In fact, you just snap your fingers and, oh, look, now the creatures are a problem again. What is the point? Now my gigantic, hyper-aggressive blue creatures can get through and hit them for the kill? Probably not, although blue creatures this time around are pretty good. So people just dismiss this as a garbage card. Well, here's the thing. If you saw my video about Gravity Bomb, which that's one of the strongest decks I've ever made, this is the king of that deck. This is one of the most important cards in the entire deck because it's so powerful. Now, I'm sure it's helped by the fact that the entire rest of the deck also taps creatures, so the whole point is they never get to swing at me. It's very common to end the game with 20 life. But the real overlooked part of this and the real lack of identifying it as awesome basically comes down to people not realizing when they have to cast this. So you wait for your opponent's turn, you leave your mana open, which in blue is always deeply suspicious, but whatever. The best thing that'll do is mess with their head and make them think you have a counterspell, which you don't. Unless you do, which is even funnier. But they maybe summon something exceptionally bad. Use Chandra's ability to bring out 2/3/1 elementals. I think that card is still legal. But even, without haste, it's like whatever, but you might as well just wait until the start of combat. So then at the start of combat on their turn, before you go to declare attacker's phase, then you tap the 2 biggest threats that they have, or just, whatever is a really good opportune target, something you would not want to be untapped during the next turn, I guess I would say. So let's follow this logically. Now they, in all likelihood, can't even swing at you at all. So they lost their attack phase. Okay, so those creatures are tapped for the rest of your opponent's turn, then all of your turn, then all of your opponent's next turn, all of your next turn, and then they finally untap during your opponent's next turn. Yeah, think about that for a second. Pause the video if you have to. Here's the thing. Okay, so yeah, those 2 creatures are not gone, but I mean, have you ever seen like a white spell printed lately that can exile 2 creatures for 3 mana? I haven't seen that. Even Quarantine Field doesn't get close to that. I mean, Stasis Snare costs 3, and, it only gets rid of 1 creature. So you can't make 2 creatures go away for 3, okay? There might be a double bounce spell for 3 or something, so okay, maybe you kind of could. But even multi-target kill spells, ones that don't affect your own creatures, that's not really even in black, so you can't just say this is bad because it doesn't permanently get rid of 2 creatures. Okay, it's an instant for 3 mana, it's not even like triple blue, I mean, come on. If you win the game in those 2 turns, those creatures were gone, okay? They were effectively logically gone. They might as well have not been on the field. Unless there's something weird that they can do, like, I mean, I'd say Devotion, but I wouldn't expect somebody to be playing Devotion right about now in Standard. I mean, most abilities are tap. I mean, you got your Cryptolith, right? You got your, tap to crew. You got your tap to improvise. If they're tapped down, they can't do anything. They can't swing, they can't block, they can't use abilities. Oh, they can use abilities that don't involve tapping. Okay, whoop-de-doo. Other than that, for all intents and purposes, if you win the game because those are tapped down, retroactively, it's as if those were removed from game. They are no longer a factor for basically, like, what, 2.5 turns? Well, turn cycles per player. I consider 1 player's turn to be a turn. So this card, I mean, I'm not saying it's supposed to go in every single blue deck. In fact, I'd say a more appropriate card to put in virtually, quote, all blue decks would be Contingency Plan, because it makes sure you don't pull the wrong things. It ensures combos, and it just ensures you don't get mana screwed. I mean, it fixes your next 5 turns. I mean, you can't even put a price on that. Except they did, and it's 2 mana. But Chilling Grasp, I mean, if you have kind of weak creatures, like you got an army of 1/3s or something, and, you have trouble dealing damage, boom, Chilling Grasp, right there. The only weakness I see with this card right now in Standard is, it's pretty hard to nail something that was crewed, and if you hit, like, basically, let's break it down. If you hit the vehicle, great, they won't crew it next time, they'll just swing with the crew. If you hit the crewing creatures, they can, in response, crew the vehicle. So they won't crew it next turn, but that's a problem. Now, I don't think, and I haven't looked completely into this, but I'm fairly certain with the way that crewing works on a technical level, you can't hit the crew and the vehicle at the same time. There is no way to do that because it just wouldn't work. I mean, theoretically, okay, you could hit the vehicle and then hit the already tapped crew and then keep both of them from untapping the next turn. But other than that, you can't simultaneously just shut them down. The vehicle either is a creature or it isn't, so you can't, hit just the crew and then also shut down the vehicle. It doesn't work that way. Still, I haven't found that to be a big detriment. I mean, this works in the deck that I put it in, so hey, why not? So if you're looking for something powerful, if this sounds like it would fit in your deck, yeah, throw it in, try it out. I mean, you might be surprised. And when you see somebody misplay it, don't tell them and silently laugh at them. I've seen people play this on their own turn. I don't even understand that. Why would somebody do that? I mean, it literally says they skip their next untap step, so you'd probably want to cast this after their next untap step. It seems obvious, but not everybody, imagines it that way. Oh, speaking of that, if you have a prowess creature, yeah, that gets actually kind of annoying because you kind of want prowess, but you kind of want to buy yourself an extra turn. So yeah, one of my favorite cards printed. I personally overlooked it until I decided to build a tap deck. I'm like, a lot of cards say tap. Let's throw this together and see if it works. I completely expected it to not work. Guess what, it does. So definitely a cool card. Haha, ice puns. If you like it, throw it in your deck, and I will see you guys next video.